should be back. Yes. Yes. Sorry. I don't know what that was. I don't know why my microphone muted there, but restarting my audio engine fixed it. It's a little bit of a strange stream today, as you can hear. There's no audio on the stream. Yes. Now I fixed it. I should be back now. There's a little bit of delay, but I still see the chat messages coming, but I should be back now with some audio. And also the music should play. Yes. It was a little bit loud for me, so I'm going to turn that down. I'm just waiting to see if yes, it's okay now. Perfect. Perfect. Okay, so we're starting off here. This is a little bit progressive. LOL. This is by Phil Lil. And this is Funk Inc. 2024. Again, we already listened to this yesterday, but we're just going to start over. I have short-term memory loss anyway, so it will be like hearing it for the first time again. I like the guitar. I think it could be a little bit more stereo. Kick and bass sounds nice. I don't think you fully cleaned the kick and bass, and the kick could be longer if you wanted to be. Alternatively, you could have this bass note a little bit louder. Because you kind of have a gap over here now. Here at this point, I would like to hear like an actual fill where the kick and bass just stops for like a bar or something like that. Kind of like what you're doing here, yeah. This is also a good spot. It's a little bit longer. Maybe this section is a little bit on the long side. As you can see, what I said about the short-term memory loss. I also like the ARP, but I think at this point it should be turned off. It should really be contained to that other section. The same is kind of true with the guitar here. Like, this is the nice spot to introduce some new elements to the track. Welcome, Dada. By the way, Iconic, Mickey, and Lobotomy, welcome as well. Sorry that I didn't say it before. Mind be welcome. I really like this lead. Nice and like actually funky, just as the title suggests. I do think maybe over here at these high points, your synths are becoming a little bit too loud. Here again you have the same ARP coming back. And also the same guitar, I think. Those elements that you had in there earlier, you don't have to continuously use them. Here as well you have those like lower drums. You can just have the guitar like rock on its own and be really powerful. Now you can really suddenly hear the very strong sidechaining that's on that first bass note. That's a little bit on the loud side there. I would have that a little bit lower. Yeah, the mix needs a little bit of work. Those detail things there. And as I said, I think there's just a few parts where you have too many elements going on. Like here, for example, it does work having that other sequence in the back, because here you want a little bit more energy, a little bit more stuff happening. Even here, I would have the open hi-hat in this part as well. So that you have that really nice high energy drums on top of the elements that you have. And now you're doing something very well in that the guitar stops to play and then this arp is coming in and these new elements are coming in. So there's a balance there, because one element goes out and another element goes in. That wasn't like that before. There were a few too many elements in there. Nice stereo on the drums. Yes. Overall, this track is very, very good. Another like small suggestion I should have is that you're focusing maybe a little bit too much energy over here. I've noticed it before as well in another section. Maybe it's one element that is doing it. But there's, yeah, as you can see, there's like not just this part, but kind of this general region here. Overall, very, very nice sound though. So next up we have here we have Joan Espar Jimenez. I am very sorry. And Synesthesia here. Trip to the East. Again, we listened to this yesterday, but we're just going to do it over. I do remember this one being very good as well. I like the kind of groove that you're already building up with the elements, how you're morphing out of the pads into the groovy part before the kick and bass starts to come in. I like the bass filter coming in like this, but what I would do is lower the bass volume. Right now you have the full volume of the bass used, and that means that in the drop it doesn't have as much impact as you want it to have. Also the bass volume relative to the kick is maybe a little bit on the loud side. Like the bass could be a little bit quieter, 1 or 2 dB. I think you may have cleaned it, may have resampled it. If not, you should do that. Drinking wine? No, this is just a Coke. And I do not condone drinking and driving. the sound design of this one being very theme heavy. And that's, as you can hear already, coming out with this flute in here. Maybe, I mean, I like it, it's unique, but it's a very jumpy melody. I like this part though, yeah. Feels like maybe one of the notes is going a little bit too high. There the kicks need to be resampled. They're playing on top of each other and you can hear that smooshing up the transient of the kicks. There was a hat on the kick. I don't know about the hat on the kick, it doesn't seem to be here. What I would say is that you're doing it now because there's a transition, but before you weren't doing it. I usually, in the final mix of my track, have my kick low passed at around 10k and then my bass low passed around 7-8k-ish. That area, because you don't really need the higher frequencies for those elements. They're generally not very pleasant, like they don't add a lot of it, it's just very, very sharp. And then once the drums come in, you have a lot more space for your hi-hats to fit in. Should do a writing and producing with projector, but instead of writing and producing, it's wine and producing. To be honest, I don't really like wine. I wouldn't drink it on my own. If I'm like out at a fancy dinner, I'll drink it. If everybody else is having it, but usually even then, if it's not too fancy, I'll have a beer instead. Very nice transition here. This element though is a little bit on the wide side. You can see it just ever so slightly being like over here. You would preferably have it around here so that it doesn't cancel when it's summed to mono. Or cancels less actually. It would still cancel but just less. And generally speaking, it's a good idea to have it around this area over here. For individual like elements playing like this. Here again as well. Towards the end there, I think it gets a little bit too empty. I don't like the sweep up again. What I would do is then, if you sweep down, then go into maybe something like a drum fill that already announces the rhythm of this drop over here. Because you have a very cool, unique rhythm over here, which you can already introduce like that. I think over here, now that you're introducing new elements, instead of slowly transitioning in this little bit here, there should just be a fill and then you cut out some of the old elements and then introduce these new elements over here with a little bit more power. Here the same way, that asset line, instead of slowly fading it in like you did here, you just introduce it full power from one point and then have a little fill before it. Okay, here the triplets kind of come out of nowhere. You should ideally have some kind of build up there in between so that the transition is a little bit better. Right now the track is already very long as well, so that might be hard. The other thing is, it doesn't feel like the sections are in a length that is like the common length, and it feels that way for all of them. You can do it for maybe 1 or 2, but usually try to write in segments of 16 bars or 8 bars or 32 bars, depending kind of the length that you want to go for each segment. Was a little bit of a strange rhythm over there towards the end. Feedback tracks and whine. Then the feedback is going to become less and less useful during the progression of the stream. Me neither. Normally I don't like it, but if you get the chance to have someone who really knows about wine, you should take the opportunity to have them choose for you. I mean, I come from a family that does a lot with wine. My parents run a kind of like a guest house B&B kind of thing. And for that reason, obviously, we have a lot of wine that we use and different bottles and everything. And just my parents were just naturally fan of wine as well. So I do know a lot about wine. I've also tasted a lot of different wines, but it's not for me. It's not my favorite drink. But I can taste like the difference between a bad wine and a good wine. I'm not like experienced enough to taste the difference between a good wine and a great wine, for example. Sorry, I'm just checking the quality of the stream, the health of the stream. It seems okay up until this point. Next up, we have Groove City over here. I do believe I have that downloaded somewhere because this is a big file. This is a WAV file. So let me go check real quick. I do believe I downloaded this to the desktop because I also tried to open it in the last stream. Yes, here we go. So this is the next track that we're going to listen to is Groove City here by Demma, and I just have it downloaded over here. Immediate start. I would like a little bit of stereo wave on the bass line. It's nice to see that it's clean. I also really like the tonality. I think that you're going for like a darker vibe also in the sound design, so it fits really well. It's not that I have it low volume, right? No, it's 100% volume for me. Sounds really nice so far. The structure is well defined. The drum sounds are very nice. It would be nice to have some kind of theming also because there was no intro in this piece. I think that is the case. It kind of just went straight into it, also with a lot of the synths and everything. Obviously now it's higher energy. But maybe some kind of spoken vocal, something that gives the track some identity. Strong kick and bass scope is looking good. Yes, looked very good. Obviously now it's a little bit harder to see with all of the synths going on, but also before you could see that it's, I mean, you could still see that it's very clean. Also just nice and flat as well. That means that either he's already done the mixing and this is just the mix down without the mastering, or the file is just quieter naturally. I usually leave the intro to the last. Really? I never leave it to the last. But sometimes I do start writing either the break or some drop idea. I rarely just go into a drop idea nowadays. because I like to write very, very fast towards the final structure of the track. Like that vocal, that is really something that freshens it up a little bit, because that's such a unique kind of sound. And that was what was missing before a little bit. Now maybe doing some glitches with them in the drop as well would be nice. I like it that you have this very strange approach to the melody for the bass, because it was before it was one beat repeating, like every time the same melody, and then it alternated later. There's a issue there in the file. Here as well, in the calmer sections, I was seeing if there would be something like an atmosphere or something like that. That it isn't just the FM synths playing in here. It's not like you need to like delete some of the synths that are in here now, because I do really like them. I agree with the chat that they're very well made and that there's a ton of cool effects and stuff like that. But it's still all like synthesized material. Right? And apart from that one vocal that we heard, there's not really been a unique element up until this point. There's still a few minutes more. But that's really the only main thing that I would be critiquing here in this track so far, because I mean the rest is just sounding very, very well done. Here as well, if you have a transition, I said before, the bassline could use a little bit of stereo. I think I said that, right? Now it's hard to tell if it's completely mono or if there's a little bit of stereo on there. But in those transitions, when you're high passing up, what I tend to do nowadays is also increase the stereo width. Especially of the bassline, but even sometimes of the kick. That can be very interesting. I do agree with you that I do think that it's indeed one of those tracks that are meant to have a lot of power, and as I said, it's not like I'm saying that you need to necessarily remove things, but like in a place like this where you have a little bit more space, you can add some cool sound design that is not necessarily synth based as well, or even do something like a flute or something like that. If there's anything you want to try to incorporate in terms of a... Oh, it's playing again. If there's anything you want to try to incorporate is a theme of some sort. Yes, that's kind of what I'm saying. Just add a few extra elements that make it stand out, I guess. But other than that, the track is amazing. Sounds very, very nice. We're going to move on to Mickey here, who should be in the chat. At least I saw him before. This is, I believe the artist name is Void, and then the track name, There Is a God. I've done some homework, let me see what we think. Again, also no intro today. I like the unique sound design that you have with that repeating bar. I think it's maybe a little bit too loud. And here we're switching elements. There should, in my opinion, be a fill. There's more of that unique sound design going on. That's good. That's tying different sections together. The kick and bass does sound a little bit hollow. I also see that the sub is a little bit low. Maybe there's something canceling there or something like that. I think the kick doesn't come low enough either. Kick seems very... Yeah, it seems very short and weak, and it gets completely taken over by the bass here. So what I would do in this situation is I would lower the bass note a little bit in terms of its volume. And then try to make the kick in such a way that it kind of looks like this. So that it ends here together with this bass note. And that way it has a little bit of a longer subtail and you get a lot more strength out of the low frequencies that way. I didn't notice if there was a fill towards the end of that last section here. But I remember I was trying to look for that.
Since aspects of our universe's design might hint at a creator, many wonder if there is a God possessing absolute control over our reality. Many wonder if there is a God. God. Many wonder if there is a God.
Like here you can hear, that's a very strong theme, right? I wanted to play it out in its entirety. It's still playing actually. Personally, I'm not really a fan of the acid line. It sounds a little bit strange to me. It might be because there is this lack of fundamental, this lack of lower frequencies that I'm not really able to place it properly. This part might also be a little bit on the busy side here. Now it's good again. Now we have the space for this element to really stand out. Another interesting thing that you can see is here the snare plays. And you can see that that's ruining the transient because you have some lower frequencies or lower mid-range here in the snare. That's cancelling out that peak that you see over here. Normally what I like to do is around this area where you can see the noise kind of trailing off, to high pass it over there so that you don't have any of these lower frequencies interfering with the transient of your kick. Because it also makes it a little bit obvious that the snare isn't tuned to the track, I think. Now, I'm not the best at like music theory and stuff like that, and even perfect pitch, I don't think I have it, or at least I've never trained it or anything like that. But it's sounding to me like it's off. It's sounding like it's out of tune, I guess. But I might, as I said, I might be wrong about that. I have no training whatsoever. I don't know music theory. Like a parabola. This is the annoying thing with the setup that I have now, with the internet that I have now. Not only did we have connection issues like yesterday, we have that more often. But also I have to be on the lowest or the highest possible latency setting. So you're saying something in the chat now, right? Like a parabola that came in a few minutes ago. And I just don't know where that was referring to. I think I was in the middle of speaking about it, something else. And then I saw the message, so that I didn't know what you were talking about. I didn't know how to react. So sometimes there's these messages in the chat, right, that I'm not able to respond to anymore because either there's so long latency that I don't remember the topic that they were referring to, stuff like that. And then I let it go, or I'm already talking and then I don't remember afterwards to say something in regards to it. It was about the kick. Aha. Yeah, the shape of the kick, I think. Yeah, the shape of the kick. I can just show you a kick drum, actually. That's probably the best way to describe it. If I go to my sample pack over here, psychedelic drum pack. If you want to just get the drum pack, that's also a good way to do it, because then you just have these kicks here. And the waveform is going to look somewhat like this. So we'll have it tied to the BPM. This is a very dark kick, so the waveform is maybe a little bit too low to see. This one is a little bit, should be a bit higher tuned, but you can see you have the initial transient, the initial spike here, and then it's just a little bit lower, and then it goes up again. So this is where your second bass note usually sits. So you can see how much of a tail there really is. There's not a lot of space for the bass note to sit in. So the bass note usually is a lot lower in volume here. That's also what is determining the groove. And you need to either phase align it or do some trickery with the sub bass removal, which is actually what I do in my bass patch from Psychedelic Essentials Volume 3. So this is the main bass patch that I use, the sub shifter auto sub control. What this does is it removes the sub bass from the bass note that plays over here. So you're going to have 3 bass notes, right? One, I'm just going to make this like this, needs to go to A sharp. So if you listen here, you can hear that the first one has a different tonality to it because it doesn't have a sub bass. You can even see it popping up on the analyzer. So the last thing that I would want to do is lower this velocity. And then you can hear the kick and bass that you're going to have with that. You can hear that it has a much stronger sub bass. And that's before the processing. So this also does wavetable bassline with variable like processing amount. So now it sounds more processed. It kind of changed the tone that it has. You can hear what we're essentially aiming for. What I think was lacking a little bit in your track is that stability in the lower frequencies. And the nice thing that I have is that I have this whole system in place of a bass patch that I just know how it works and how to use it, as well as this whole pack of kick drums. This one over here. You could either just get this if you want to. Like, these are both part, obviously, of different products on my Gumroad page. But you don't have to. You can make your own pack of kick drums that you know work. And the way that you do that is you just sit down for an afternoon and first start learning a little bit about the kick drums, maybe watch a tutorial or two, and then start making a few, and then doing a lot of referencing. So in regards to the shape of the kick, I know I went on a little bit of a tangent there, a little bit of a long explainer, but that's how you would train something like that. That's how you would identify the problems in your own kick, and that's what I personally do for not just kick design, but for anything, is I just sit down for a while and see how other people are tackling the problem, and then trying to implement that in my own way that I know how it works, and I know that I can implement it in such a way that it's like really easy for me to start writing, for example. And Ableton just crashed. Okay. Kick 2 is a huge shortcut if you're going to try to synthesize your own kick. Yeah, I don't use it, but it's a very good plugin if you're looking for something that is very good at one very specific thing. Casualton, yes. But we should be back. Let me try and delete these again. And then I'll maybe save the project here. That way I can always use the same project as well every Sunday. I just have one with the analyzers in here. Okay, let's try this again. Where are we? So we listened to this one. Next up we have Allies of Egypt here. Let's have a listen. By Psy. I am getting some error. Okay, so the track unfortunately no longer exists. There's nothing that I can do about that. Maybe you resubmitted a different version of it later on, and then we'll get there when we get there. Yeah, Allies of Egypt here. I see a new version of it. So we'll go to Histro. Test project, experimental. Sounds very experimental indeed. Very, very experimental track. There are snares as hats and things like that. So yes, very experimental. Very interesting as well, probably. Let's have a listen. 200 BPM F. How's your connection? It's looking good so far. I like it. I like the tone of it. Bass, kick and bass could be cleaner. The kick is, I think, clean here. The bass line is clean towards the end, but in between there's a little bit of a thing happening here. It is very small though. That's kind of the thing that is, I guess, you can get away with having that in there.
I speak from the heart to the very last letter.
What I don't like, I think, is the bass line being louder than the kick, which it seems is happening here. At this point, we're just getting too loud as well. I can hear the limiter struggling. Although this part again is very clean. There we have a very strange riser that rises up and then stays at the same level for a while. It was also very loud. I am going to get the copyright claim now. I don't know if I like this. This is like techno distortion. It becomes more and more techno.
Every kind of music for every kind of taste.
Honestly, I think that this is just too bass heavy, a part like this. I like that you're experimenting here. I like that the different clicks are happening and stuff like that. But overall, the bass is a little bit too powerful there. It's psychcore, yes. I think that's the... I think I've heard of that. Clicks are far too loud there. There were a few instances, indeed somebody said already in the intro that the clicks should be a little bit cleaned up there. I do think that that was referring to different clicks, but I also heard in different parts that the bassline was just a little bit too powerful in the transient. I feel like here maybe you're going a little bit too low. There should be some sound systems that have trouble with that. Now we're just going all over the place. Every different genre. Here the bassline, as you can see, just becomes way too loud.
I'm certain I can beat you. Your kung fu is pretty good.
Very hollow bassline here, very strange. I guess very filtered. I like the, as I said, I like experimental stuff, but this just became more and more experimental throughout. I do really like it though. It's different from what I normally like. I understand that in this genre it's maybe not as tightly produced though. It's the idea that you have a lot of different effects and sounds on top of everything rather than being very precise when it comes to the kick and bass and stuff like that. Because it's moving all over the place. It's part of the genre, it's very playful and it switches up abruptly like this. Yeah, I figured that it would be something like that. I do think that there was a few mixing things that I mainly pointed out that were something to look at. Different volume levels and that kind of stuff. Let me see, how many tracks do I have now? Because one of the consequences is that now we have more tracks to go through, and he has another one that he wants me to listen to. I don't know if he's here, by the way, in the chat today. You like the 227 BPM project I linked on Discord? We'll have a listen to everything. We'll have a listen to this one as well. The only thing that I'm debating is if I want to listen to this one now or towards the end of the stream, if there's many more tracks in here. There does seem to be a little bit of chatting as well. So how many tracks do you have in total to listen to? Because there was this backlog that we had to go through. We are 1, 2, 3, 4. Is this the same one that you linked later? No. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I mean, that will be okay, I think. We'll get a few more during the stream, I think. But for now, I just want to keep an eye on it. How long have I been streaming? Just 50 minutes. So we'll have a listen to this one then. And just continue chronologically. I should also look every once in a while if there's any supporters here, any patrons, because they get they get to skip the queue. But there are none so far submitting. I'm here, yes, the next one is just 2 minutes. Ah, okay, you changed your username. I think, right? You used to be... I don't even remember. I do remember that you had a different username than you had in Discord, Histro. But I don't remember the old one. Anyway, it's only 2 minutes unfinished. Yeah, okay, perfect. Let's have a listen to Learning Project-Old Project 264 BPM in C#. Probably also going to be very experimental, this one. like this. This sounds very tight. It needs cleaning, but the tonality is very nice. A little bit of stereo wave again on the bass would be nice as well. Here there's a lot of synths as well that don't really have a lot of stuff going on in the stereo field. And you're panning your heads around a lot, which means that they don't have a lot of presence. Which is okay, because you're kind of creating this ambience in the higher frequencies. But with the synths being so gritty and being so mono and in your face, it's hard to sometimes hear the rhythm in here. Also because it's so fast. Free music distribution side. It does kind of have that sound to it, but if it were pitched up by like 2 octaves. Sorry I'm late, my zipper got stuck. I'm glad to hear that it got unstuck and that you were able to make it here. Some very crazy stuff going on there towards the end. I do really like that. Sounds very nice. How's everyone doing? Looking at your message, I'm doing better than you. I did not get my zipper stuck. No, I'm doing fine. I'm doing well. I'm just glad that the connection issues haven't stayed. It's just a one-off. Next up, Ionic with Fight Night. Very strong bass heavy intro there. You're welcome, Spency. I never said I got unstuck. You just took out your phone and started watching.
Test your might.
It sounds a little bit strange, but you have these 3 very strong, I guess, open hats on the beats that are not the kick. That's a very strange beat here. I was going to talk about the... Oh yeah, what I want to say about the hats is that it wasn't on the transient of the kick, so it sounded very lacking in energy on top of the kick itself in that part before. Here that feeling is even more amplified because there is no kick transient. It's just continuous sub bass here. So there's no punch in here. It's just kind of like... Like the kick is barely coming through. It's strange because I do really like the rest of it. It's very clean mix here. It's just very, very sub heavy. I also like the stereo wave on it. The only thing I would say is maybe on the vocals they sound a little bit under processed for the genre. I would like to have maybe a layer of them an octave lower or something like that, so that you have that really deep kind of strong voice, which does seem to fit really well with this kind of techno-ish style. But now for now the main thing is just the bass heaviness of this whole track here, and even in the intro it's not that big of an issue.
Round 2. Fight!
already have a little bit of a better transient. I mean, a lot better transient, actually. It's just still too sub-heavy, and I think here the sub-bass is also in stereo. I would at least have like the lowest 100 hertz be completely mono if I were you. Yeah, I want to go back through and add a transient layer. You don't have to go back through and add the transient layer, you just need to lower the sub so that you have more space for the transient that is already there. Unless there's just no transient there. But what I hear here, there is already something there, that's that kind of lower crunch, which could be enough. You just need to make the space for it that it actually has the power to come through. Even here, it's like a nice crunchy kick, kind of kick, which can work. Now you can hear how it sounds without a big sub on there.
Test your might.
I hope Bruce Buffer doesn't claim copyright on that. Let's get ready to rumble. It has been better lately, but with my luck and copyright issues, I wouldn't be surprised. I like it, slowly building up the energy here with that snare roll coming in.
Final round.
I would like to hear a little bit more build up before we go into that final round part there. It might also be the case that the acid line, now that we are back in here, that the acid line and that big synth over there, those kind of elements have a lot of like clutter in that area when the transient of the kick is playing as well. I think it's a combination of both factors. The sub bass is definitely too loud for the track, and it might also be that especially that screechy synth is just also a little bit on the loud side, and then the acid line might have some lower frequencies in there as well. Those kind of issues are really what you should be looking for when mixing, is that kind of little bit of separation that still makes it so that every element has its own unique space in the mix. And I feel like that process has been lacking here in this part of, or in this production. Because overall the tone is very nice and the high frequencies are mixed very well and that kind of stuff. But there's a few elements that need a little bit more attention. Now listening towards the last part, I could agree with you when you were saying about the transient layer. You could add a click on top of it, that would also be an option. It doesn't replace, again, the other things that I said. It just enhances the transient a little bit more, if you will. But that could be the case. Now listening to the kick in isolation towards the end there. Having a little bit of a high-end kind of tick on top of it could be nice as well. Tends to glue it a little bit together with the drums as well. Next up we have... Okay, so this was everything from yesterday's stream. There's still some people that submitted kind of after that. But then we start to get into the stream here. So what I'll do is I'll listen to everything that was submitted before the start of the stream, and then I'll take a quick break after that. So next up, Lobotomy, I don't know, with Noit Subo, unreleased. I guess you guys just do this to me, that you get names like this and stuff that I cannot pronounce. I swear it's on purpose. 155 BPM, by the way, Dark Side Trance. in relation to the kick. Like the kick should be the loudest element in the track, and now it's has no space whatsoever. Overall, though, as I said, there's either this was very, very experimental, or what happened here is you did like a very long sound design session, and you did a whole bunch of cool different things that you just kind of duplicated over, and that kind of got out of hand, and you continued working on it and doing it like that and like that. I actually have a video coming out soon on how you would go about taking one of those sound design sessions and then actually turning it into a track. Because the way that I would do it is I would render all of that sound design out to files and then start a new project and kind of use that as a sample pack that you build out of, as opposed to trying to arrange a track from the sound design session while you're in that sound design session project. And I feel like that is what is happening here because of the kind of like lack of structure to this track. And overall the large quantity of sounds that are sitting on top of it. Exclamation point feedback. The bot is awake, so hopefully he should answer the command. I haven't seen if he answered before. I'll wake him up. Stream elements dashboard. Chatbot. It's not like I've accidentally turned off the command, no. Yes, now it's on. Exclamation point feedback. Yeah, the bot is sleeping. Yes, very much so. I believe my Discord link, yes. There's a join my Discord in the description of the stream. I'll just tell you how it works then. There's a link in the description that allows you to join my Discord. You'll join somewhere over here, or I think over here. You just scroll down here until you see feedback on stream, and then you post right here. Do make sure that you read this. This basically says you grant me permission to play your track for reviewing your track on the live stream and on the video, and you don't submit any works that you don't fully own the copyright to. Those are the two conditions for which this works. So that means no remixes like this stuff over here. Yeah, so Naruto opening theme, I will definitely get a claim if I play something like this. So this would not be allowed, and we'll probably skip over it completely. Unfortunately, I have to do it like this. So we left here. I wanted to take a quick break, and that means that I'll put on some music. Let me see what kind of interesting music I have. This one. I'll soon go into mixing this. I might mix this track on stream. That might be interesting. Because it would be the first full mix that I would do on the new monitors. I've been in your Discord for years, so we'll submit there. Thank you, perfect. That being said, I'm going to take a quick break. I'll play this track, and when this track is finished, I'll be back. And we'll continue listening to more tracks. We'll continue with Psy Active over here, and then we have a bunch more tracks to listen to. So I'll see you in a bit. Hello? Aha. So I might mix this track live on stream next week or so. I'll have to see.
fun game. But where the real fruit is in the social aspect, where you get to meet people and play them a game and have a fun, competitive game. You do the best you can, but if you don't win, you won anyway. Because when you lose, you win too. Because if you're paying attention, you learn stuff.
The headband from my headphones have come loose. Very well written and nice sound design. Thank you. Nice Atmos. Thank you very much. I also see somebody getting political in here about their hat placement. Mine is just nice in the center, for anybody wondering. I don't know what that says about me. I just like to have my stuff in the center. Very nice track. Thank you. I have 2 chats now, by the way. I have a left one and a right one, for some reason. It's because of the disconnect and the reconnect, I think I did at the beginning of the stream. Anyway, next up we have Psy Active over here, 145 D sharp, part 50. It's going to be annoying. I do have to download this because this is WeTransfer. I don't prefer WeTransfer if you guys send me tracks. It's annoying having to download it. The other annoying thing now is that we are at part 50, so we're going to be pretty lost in the story. Unfortunately. But we'll try to judge it to the best of our abilities. Not mixed yet, trying to get creative things in full length first. Okay. I'm assuming that he means that he wants to like finish the whole production, that we're going to listen to an unfinished production. I cannot see, unfortunately, yet because it has to download the file. In the meantime, I can pour myself a drink. And I get myself some Pringles. Sorry, I'll fix for next time. No worries. we'll just have to wait a little bit. I usually say it out loud sometimes when people like specifically ask, but maybe I should put it in here as well. In fact, I'm thinking of having to just completely rewrite this. What I'll probably end up doing today after the stream is ping a little message in here in stream discussion to ask if the message in here is clear. And if not, I'll rewrite this and add that part to it as well, that I would like to be able to play the track from the browser. But now it's done, so it doesn't matter. So this is going to be 145 D sharp part 50. Where is it? Here. Immediate start again, no intro. Nice dark kick and bass tone here. Very loud synths. This is nice and resampled, I'd love to see it. Yo bro, thank you for the feedback, you're welcome. I hope it's helpful. This sounds very good already, I like it. I would like to hear it speed up though here. Yeah, that would, in my opinion, there should be fill here. I like that the drums are speeding up now. Would love to hear a bit more of an open hat here. But I like that the sequences and everything are speeding up now as well. It is still a little bit loud sometimes. Some of the synths that are playing, you can also see like the waveform kind of really blooming out there sometimes. But it's sounding nice and powerful. No intro, gang. Yes, exactly. It's them. Yeah, I knew it because we looked at your track yesterday as well, but then we had the connection issues. I'm trying to find something that isn't mixing related in this track. Because it's all like everything is a little bit loud, like all the synths, right? But he said he didn't do the mixing yet. So I'm assuming that that may be something that he will catch when he's actually doing the mixing. I guess one thing that I could say... Let's see if we can find a space to... Yeah, no. You cannot see it anymore. I was going to talk about the transient of the kick and the bass and how I like to low pass filter them. Acid line is a bit on the mono side. I would like to hear a little bit of stereo excitement coming from that as well. There are a few elements in the track that have that. That's again the mixing thing in my opinion. Pushed it a bit too much with the limiter, I think. I think you're brave for trying to master before you mix. Because your mix is going to heavily influence how you should master the track. Right? I know this may be like a temporary mix, but I always refrain from mastering my temporary mix in any way. It is indeed a little bit on the loud side, but it's also the volume balance between different things.
Parallel universes.
So here, for example, the vocal gets completely overpowered. It's hard to hear what he is saying because the volume of the other elements are too high. And in this case, there might also be a bit too many high frequencies in the elements that are playing on top of the vocals. Now the stereo field is very nicely defined. Here, this is the part where the stereo field is very nice. Somebody said the visuals look a little bit crazy. I don't think they do, they look very good for the track.
Almost like I could see them.
Here the vocal is good. This is a vocal actually coming out if it's telling a story. Here I can also talk about the transient. As I said, I like to low pass the kick at around 10k and the bass at around like 8K-ish, so that the kick has a little bit higher peak frequency. That gives it just a little bit more presence. I can also see that you have a hat on top. You wouldn't filter out the hat, obviously, but I would, in that case, also filter out the transient itself, so that that hat also has its own unique, just little like carved out area in here in the very high frequencies that it only exists in, and it doesn't actually fight with that high click from the transient itself. That click is just kind of like just below it. Here again, I think the hat that you have on the offbeat should be a little bit longer, like an actually extended open hat. I do get why you would use this hat in other parts, which is a little bit less energetic, but when you have this big, massive sequence coming in, which is, to be honest, very well done. Okay, there it stopped. It just started again. If you have a sequence like that, that is very, very high energy. So you want to match that with the drums as well. And the hat that you have in there now kind of screams like semi-open hat, like it's tails off very quickly. So I would just get, to be honest, a classic 909 is almost always my go-to. For those that don't know, the standard 909 is something like this, right? That it has like a little sustain to it. You can see that it goes down for a bit, but then it stays open for a bit. I like that in a hat. I like it when it does that. It just stays a little bit longer, and it tends to result in a very nice high energy feeling. I do agree with the chat. It is a very nice track. I think you can tell that the things that I'm talking about are all like slightly detail related. The only big thing, as I said, is that there's some volume balancing that needs to be done in this track, and that's just the mixing part, which you already said wasn't done. So that's understandable. Anyway, next up we have Psy. Work in progress. Would love some feedback about what other elements and changes you would add, and mixing and mastering. Okay. .909 goat hat, yes. It just works. A little bit wide in some spaces here. Like that guitar is very wide, right? It's almost hard panning. Yeah, I had a habit of over mixing while creating the track, so I'm really trying not to mix at all that much before I finish the track. I mean, then I work in the same way as you, apart from, I guess, not leaving the intro towards the end of the production. But I also produce first, and I do some basic stuff, right? The high cuts that you do on your synths to remove low frequency, stuff like that. But other than that, I mix also in a separate project after the fact. So I have actual mixing sessions. I was saying something about the stereo before, but I think that this may be an ambient track, because it looks like that from the waveform. It doesn't look like this has like a psytrance drop to it. So in that regard, I would probably think that this would be the kind of track that you would listen to on a stereo system. Right? Kind of like an ambient track. People listen to that on headphones more, you're targeting more. Those kind of systems, I guess. And for that, it doesn't really matter too much. This one is ambient without drums. Okay. So in that case, I would almost say that your big play with the stereo field here does add to the track. I did see some like clipping over here, I think, or at least very hard pushing just now. Just a little bit back. So it may be mastered a little bit too loud. Keep in mind that for a track like this, you can keep it basically fully dynamic. You don't have to do any limiting on top of it, because this is not really dance track. Right here it also gets a little bit squashed here. As you can see from the waveform, the wave is always at the same level, which means that the limiter is acting on every wave cycle. You can just turn it down by 2 dB going into the limiter, and you basically change nothing because the loudness doesn't matter for a track like this. And what you're doing here, for example, so this is a good example of kind of like macro dynamics over whole track. We just had a very loud part, and then it went down a little bit in volume. You're going to have that effect a little bit more if you're not limiting so much in those other spaces. Because those headrooms differences are, or those differences in volume are going to be bigger because the limiter doesn't shave the top off. And I do really like that you're doing that macro dynamic stuff with going from slightly louder to slightly quieter. I think you're partially doing that with the sub bass, right? So the sub bass, like for example here, it feels like it's slowly becoming a little bit louder. I think that's my downstairs neighbors. I think I can hear some limiter crunching even here. You just hear some kind of slight crunching in the right channel there. Hello Goose, I see your question. Once the track is finished, I'll respond to it. Little click there, for some reason. This is not the click, this is the interface refreshing. Like this is one of the elements that is causing the limiter thing. To be honest, towards the end here of the sound, or of the track, what I would do is I would not have this final sweep in here, or at least have it become a lot quieter beforehand. That way it kind of slowly fades out, because now what it's doing, like macro dynamics wise, it's staying like this, and then it goes up like this, and then it immediately goes down and it stops. So that's a little bit strange in my opinion. What I would choose for is then to maybe, like, if you want a change in the dynamics there, go down, so that you kind of go down in 2 steps. But I wouldn't go like up and then immediately down again. Okay, so Goose, welcome to the stream. I do psytrance most of the time, but as you can hear, there's also other types of music. This was just kind of like an ambient track by Psy here, also known as Sonic Flux. But I usually do psytrance. When it comes to what genres you can submit anything you want. The only thing that you have to read is this over here. You grant me permission to play it during the live stream and the video that is up, so you don't copyright strike my channel or anything like that, or copyright claim even. And you don't submit works that you don't fully own the copyright to. So any remixes, stuff like that, I don't play remixes on the live stream. You can just post them in here in the queue and we'll get to them when we'll get to them. So for example, here we have a remix, some Psy Heart Frenchcore stuff. Unfortunately, as you can see, it uses Naruto opening theme and it's a remix of a different track. So unfortunately, I cannot play this one. But right now, I am over here. So we'll listen to Life Experience. I'm assuming Life Experience is the artist name, and then Acid Psy is the track title. So Acid Psy by Life Experience, 146 BPM. I like this Master. Sorry, I want to play here. Master V7. Every artist has that. Finally a track with an intro again.
What is ego death? Some people have on a high dose of psychedelic. Absolutely crumble.
In my opinion, the vocals could have a little bit more space.
If you surrender to it,
because they are so strong in terms of the effects, it's a little bit hard to hear what
ego come down.
they're saying. Especially here. Nice wavetable bassline, so it's nice and clean of its own. Let's see. This might actually be my bass patch. Life Experience is the title, Type Beats is the artist. I'm sorry. But there you go. I like it so far. The tonality is nice, it's nice and clean. The drums are nice. I like what you're doing with the little accent claps and stuff like that. I like that you're doing something new here with the acid melody. What I would do is I would tie that change to the fill. And then over here, so what happened now is I think it played for like 4 bars or 8 bars and then the melody changed. I would have it start with the change melody from that section. And then maybe even here in this section just not have the acid line itself, have a different synth in there.
Ego death is the experience that some people have on a high dose of psychedelics where they feel their sense of self absolutely crumble.
Here the vocal is nice. Here the vocal has the space that it needs.
Appealing is if you accept it, if you surrender to it, the feeling can be quite ecstatic. Because
right here you can hear exactly what he's saying.
You have this sense of merging with the cosmos. It doesn't always happen, but when it does, it's one of the more interesting life experiences you can have. 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 Life experiences you can have.
You have an issue that I sometimes have myself as well, and that is that the delay turns on like halfway through the word, so that there's a little bit of a chop in it, a little bit of a click in it. What I would do is I would turn the delay on just slightly before that like syllable, as opposed to on the syllable when the syllable is at its loudest. I like that synergy in the melodies between the bass and that one synth there. Nice little fill element there. I do feel like we're going back into the same elements that we were listening to in the first drop. It would be nice to have a few different elements in here. Where did you cut the bass and the lows? I don't cut the bass and the lows. There seems to be a
Ego death is the experience.
Slight click there. I don't know if that was my playback or
their sense of self absolutely crumble. I had an experience once myself.
The file itself.
I saw myself, and I know this sounds weird because here's what I'm seeing explode in a cloud of post-it notes that then fell to the ground and spread out.
Here you can hear the transition. In the beginning, the vocal was easy to hear, and then towards the end, it's hard to understand what he's saying. I know that you want to both raise the energy and have a vocal like that in there, but they're really not a great way to combine them, because for high energy buildups like that, you need a lot of high frequencies, which is exactly what the vocal is struggling with. Where did you cut the bass and the lows? In regards to the lows on the kick, yes. So for my bass patch, this is my bass patch. I guess I got that right then, when I said it before. At least I think that that's what you mean, right? But my bass patch here, when the note lines up with the kick, it removes the sub bass, so my bass patch only provides sub bass here and here. Here we have some different sounds. Here we have some unique sound design. That little Wii U thingy that was playing. Here, there the same element comes through once again. Really, there stuff like an outro like that, it's where you can kind of continue the story, and by going back to the element that you already played throughout the whole track, it just solidifies the message in the same way. Right, because it plays the same thing over again. What you could do, for example, is have like a big flute there, which is this unique element. I like to do that a lot, where I have just a one shot that plays once in the track, and it's this very big thing, and then it plays never again, or maybe twice throughout the whole track. Right, once in maybe the first drop, and then once towards the outro, something like that, so that you have a few elements that make part of the track unique and stand out. And I would do the same with the sequences, in that I would have more unique sequences in different spots. Okay, thank you for answering. I like to write in bros tab, new metal, drum and bass, UK garage, and because of that I ask you about genres in which I'm out to get feedback. Your videos are so informative. Thank you. I'm glad you like the videos. To be honest, you can send me anything that you want. I'll listen to anything. So just send it in here and we'll have a listen to it. Where are you from? I am originally Dutch, but I've been living in Italy for almost 11. For almost 11 years now. Yes. 11, I think. Yeah. Sorry. It's sometimes hard to remember that. I've also lived a year in Hungary, by the way. It's the first year that I started the channel, the good old Hungary days, for those that remember. Anyway, we'll move on to the next track, 277 BPM Madness. Again, I'm skipping this for copyright reasons. This is a remix, and don't submit works you don't fully own the copyright to. Maybe you still have the copyright here. In that case, it would be fine for me to play it. But I don't think he's in the chat even, talking. Maybe before I may have seen his name pop up once. Yeah, in the very beginning. But even then, it's usually more of a hassle. Even if the person has permission, it's usually still a hassle because the automatic system still gets it. And then I need to still give a response and everything. Yeah, but now it's seeing as you don't have the copyrights, then obviously I cannot play it. Because then I just get in trouble with the channel. As you guys probably all know from the video that I posted on it now. And all of the times that I hammer that you guys read this stuff before posting. Anyway, next up we have Cocon Vault Unmastered Vinyl 277 BPM. It's going to be interesting. But I only use the high pitched acapella. I don't care. It doesn't change any of it. Even then, I also don't agree with it on a moral basis almost. In that you shouldn't just take a vocal from an artist without asking for permission. And remix something. I do realize that I sample stuff, but I never sample from another piece of music. It's always some spoken vocal or something like that. I like it so far. It is very experimental indeed, yes. There's a lot going on here in rhythms. I don't think I'm a fan of this pitch thing that you're doing here. I like the bassline when it's just playing as it is like this. I think this is again that psy-core kind of thing, right? I know it's, I guess, the genre, the psy-core genre, but it's a little bit too busy of a track for me. Right, it's hard to follow which, like, synth element again you want us to listen to. Kind of like the last track that you submitted, had the same kind of issue. I mean, not really issue, because I guess it's part of the genre. It's just a vibe that I don't like. I guess for me it could work if the bass line stayed continuously in the same key. Like if it only played this variation and it didn't do the pitching up and down thing. This could work, because this sounds very stable, very nice to me. With the pitching it becomes very obvious that there's a lot of stuff going on, right? It's like one extra layer on top of it. If it just stayed stable all the way through, I could see it work. Also because now at this point we've had the same kind of melody kind of doing the same thing. So it becomes really obvious that it's just the same thing repeating over and over again. If you have it always the same key, it doesn't become obvious that it's repeating because there's a lot of other stuff happening on top of that and we're not necessarily paying attention to it. But now, with the melody, it's something that grabs your attention, right? That pitching up and down thing that it does. So it grabs your attention every time and it tells you, hey, here's the same thing over and over again. And it just grabs your attention away from the rest of the cool synths, the arguably very cool sound design that you're doing. Honestly, at this point with the vocals that you have in here, they are not going to be able to tell a story. They're not mixed that way, they're way too affected for that. There is no possibility to mix them this way because this is just too busy. So what I would go for is I would go for the full 100% and completely glitch up those vocals and like transgate them as well. So that they form part of the same rhythm that, for example, these synths over here have. Kick and bass sounds a little bit low in volume in this part. There's a lot of dissonance. I guess again that's part of the psycore genre. Like it's definitely experimental what he's doing here. I think before we had a different bassline, right? Like before we had a sliding bass. Now with this bassline, and even here the kick is just too quiet. So I would turn it up a little bit. In the last part I didn't notice it with the bassline, but even with the kick there it might be the case. Or it might be that here the synth sounds are a little bit louder. And that's why I notice it now. This is the kind of track that I can appreciate, this kind of sound design, this kind of experimental stuff. And I hope that my feedback on them on the track can help it out become a little bit better. Tried walking to the Hightech stage on Indian Spirit 3 AM. What tripping balls to music makes perfect sense in that state. To be honest, it makes sense in every state to me. I listen to some Hightech once in a while. I have to say though, this is even more experimental as the average like Hightech track. I know the Hightech track is glitchy and all, but this is very experimental in its sound design. And very cool. I do like this kind of stuff, as I said. Few details, few things to worry about, but I think it's a very good track. Next up, we have... How many more tracks do we have in the queue? A decent amount. Nothing major. We have Isolator with Matrix Glitch. I don't know if he's still here, but he was in chat before. Anyway, Matrix Glitch. That's his younger brother. I like it. I would have a little pause here before that fill. Tone is very nice here. Bassline is unfortunately not resampled or separated in any way, so you can see here we have an oscillation. I would stop the oscillation here so that this transient has all of that space to come in. And you would of course need to resample all of the kick and bass notes for that. I think this is maybe a bit of a mistake here from Sidescope. Maybe I paused it strangely or something like that. But the kick seems to go in here nicely, so it has a nice amount of space here. It's just the bass notes that need to be resampled, I think. I like how dynamic this is in the groove. Oh, there is Isolator. Nice. This sounds very good. Nice brightness in there. I like what you're doing with the drums. That plucky synth, this one that played there, the melodic thing, I think it's a little bit too mono. A little bit of stereo wave on that one. I can hear some interesting sound design in the stereo wave now. Yeah. I was gonna say overall it could be a little bit more interesting, but then I hear like an effect on the left side, something else on the right side, so there's definitely some stereo play happening here. Very cool stuff here. I like it. I don't know if you're considering something crazy here, but this is the kind of drop with the sounds that you've going on in here that I would put, for example, sliding bass on. So that you then have like a little break after this drop as well, maybe after this segment even. And then you go like in a break or something like that, and then you have the rolling bassline's third drop. Kind of like the track that I played before during the break. If you can get like a sliding bassline with the same kind of groove in here, in the same way that it kind of bounces with the kick, then that could be very cool. Thanks, but I don't have monitors, that's why can be some problems in a track. To be honest, that it doesn't show. It sounds very nice. Monitors aren't necessary per se, even Andrew Sheps works on headphones 80% of the time. I mean, up until a month ago, I didn't have monitors. And you can see all of the things that I've created. If you enjoy my mixes, then all of the things that are coming out of me were mixed on those small speakers that I had. With an off-axis subwoofer. Well, it was a terrible setup for mixing, but I could still do it because I was used to the system. I know what stuff was supposed to sound like. Hey projector, can I send YouTube link? Yes, of course. You can just send it in here. We've had a lot of sounds that we also heard in the first drop in here. Ah, this is the outro, I think. Or is this a break? Ah, we have another break. So this track has 4 drops. What I would do is then extend the track in such a way that you basically have 3 drops like this, and then this would be a sliding bass line. Because now also the structure here and here is pretty similar, it looks like it. You basically go into repetition again. I like this part as well because this has a unique synth to it. I'll show you later the waveform of the track that I was talking about before from the break. So you can see the whole structure very easily, what I mean. Honestly, in my opinion, what I would do is I would get rid of this drop over here, kind of combine these 2 breaks in one another, and then make this drop a little bit longer, this one maybe a little bit longer, maybe the intro can be a little bit longer, so that you space it out again towards this time over here. But you kind of keep this drop the same length, and you can do something cool with the bass line, like I said before, with the sliding bass. I really like the elements that you have in this segment that's playing now. But I felt like the 3rd drop that you have was a little bit of a repetition of the first one, and this one has a little bit more of a unique synth to it. Funky pattern here with the 3 beats per thing with the delay. What is that? Like 3/4 of a note. 1/2 dotted maybe? Doesn't really matter. Oh yeah, I want to show you the structure of the track here. This one over here. So you can see here we have rolling bass line over here. Just a bunch of sections. You can also see each individual fill, right, in the waveform as well. That's also something that I straight aim for. Or every individual build up here and here towards the end. You can see it kind of fading out. That's where I'm filter transitioning. Then over here you can see we have sliding bass line. You'll be able to see that in the waveform. And that the waveform is a little bit different if you zoom in like that. But if I wouldn't tell you, then you wouldn't know. But you can see that we essentially have rolling bassline, sliding bassline, rolling bassline again. So there's breaks in between the segments so that you have this clear separation between those ideas. It also means that it sounds just cooler because there's more stuff happening, right? There's a change between what's happening over here and what's happening over here. And for that reason, what I also have is I have unique sequences to this. I have unique one-shots for this. Almost all of the sound design in this part is unique. But overall, I did really like the track. I think it's a very good sounding track. But there's some things that I would change on it for sure. Next up, we have Infra Shell. Hyperdecker, here's my second sidetrans track and first offering of 2024. This still needs a final mixdown and mastering, but I hope this is sufficient to get the idea across. untitled underscore dash underscore 142 BPM underscore EM underscore dash underscore quick underscore end underscore dirty underscore mix underscore underscore master. Is there more? I don't know. Anyway, I guess .mp3 is going to be at the end there somewhere because it's 20 megabytes. Let's have a listen to this untitled track by Infra Shell. I'm getting a little bit lightheaded after pronouncing that title. Nice, strong, dark beginning. I like that you're keeping the volume of the kick and bass low when you're transitioning like this. There's definitely issues with the kick and bass. You can hear the lack of transient punch here. And you can see the reason why is the kick and bass isn't cleaned up. Like tonally it sounds very good, but it doesn't have a transient whatsoever. The only transient that this does have, by the way, is stereo. It sounds very stereo. I could hear it for now a little bit, but it's a mess here in the waveform, as you can see. So in my opinion, you would need to clean that up. Make sure to resample an individual bass note and make sure that it doesn't bleed into kick, doesn't bleed into other bass notes, stuff like that. We saw other tracks before that had much cleaner waveforms. And yes, I am actually working on a video talking about waveform analysis and how to do it. Some very long halves. Very long and strong because there's not a lot of mid-range stuff happening. You can see you have a massive sub-bass hump here. And then it just stays down. And then you have your big thing up here. I like that transition, but I would use that transition to go into this drop because you went into the different bassline. That sounded very off, like a very sudden change. And then you had this really cool transition, which you could actually use to go into a bassline like this. If it is resampled and your waveform was looking like that, where the bassline was bleeding into the kick so much, it's looking less severe now, but before it looked very bad. Then there's probably something behind the resampling, some filters on the master channel or something like that, that is again making it dirty. Because it looked very destroyed, the transients. I like this. It sounds nice and powerful. I think the one thing that you're missing here is you have a little bit too much energy here, a little bit too much energy here, and not enough energy around like this area over here. It's a little bit too like this, the spectrum. What's happening in my left here? I hear some very short high frequency thing. I think there's like a snap right before the kick transient, whereas the rest of the clap kind of gets cut off. Only in the left, yes. I do hear it too, yes. I can definitely hear that this is suffering from some beginning issues, not just in the mixing and the tonal balance and stuff like that, but also in a little bit in the writing. But for a second psytrance track, this sounding very, very good.
Consciousness in this reality is vibration. Everything is a vibrational field. This is how astrology works. When we're born, where the planets are, they're sending out vibrational projections that are affecting the vibrational field that we are born into, and that's why we are affected differently at different times of the year.
Here the vocal has a little bit of issues coming through, I would say. Something like that has like a very nice chant to it. I would like to have that very upfront and kind of taking over. It's not really doing that. There's still some arps in the background and stuff like that. I guess that's partially writing. You're putting a lot of elements that it has to compete with, but you can get away with it if you then mix it properly. Which I guess you said you hadn't done yet. It still needs a final mixdown, so that's something that you might take care of later in the mixdown. It gets very loud here. Kick is kind of overtaking out of nowhere. It sounds a little bit off. Bassline also doesn't have a lot of warmth here in the mid-range. Like it sounds very nasally because of it. Right, Still working on the writing, practice. Of course. If this is indeed, yes, your second sidetrance track, then writing-wise it is already sounding very, very good. But there's just details that you can hear that it's still showing that there's some beginner-like decisions, I would say. And that's just stuff that you need to tune your ear for, which just doesn't happen overnight. So for example here, I think you're trying to do a little bit too much with the different elements on top of each other. You have a big acid line, you have quite significantly strong drums here, you have some other sequences in here, and then there's the vocal on top. All of that is going to be really hard to all mix together. What is warmth? Warmth is this frequency range, from around 100 Hz to around like 400 Hz. It's kind of like the lower mid-range. We associate that with like a very warm feeling usually. Which this track is lacking a little bit, and it's because it has both very high frequencies and very low frequencies and not a lot of stuff in between. I can also hear the stereo transient again. I'm not a fan of the stereo transient. Transient sounds like it's coming from here. I would like to hear very clear mono transient to go with that. Overall though, very, very good track, especially for your second sidetrance track. It sounds very, very nice. There are a few more tracks in here. How long have I been streaming? It's 2 hours 16 minutes. What I'll do is I'll close the queue here. We have 1, 2, 3, 4 more tracks. All very cool artwork, by the way. Just saying. I will close the queue here. And then we'll just listen to these 4 more tracks and then we'll call it a day for today. We'll start with The Birds Are Planning Something. It's because they're part of the government, of course. That's unfortunate that you just missed your part of the review. Very good track. Very, very well done. It took me a little bit of time to get into the idea of using kicks for bass lines. I didn't really notice at first, but at some point it just kind of clicked that is what was happening. But once you get through the whole track, then you're used to the idea. And it sounds very cool. And then you get to start to appreciate all of the soundscaping that you're doing and all of the crazy sound design, which there's a lot of. It's kind of like a track I think this is the kind of track that you can only really properly enjoy after a few times of listening. So maybe after the end of the stream, I'll listen to it again on my monitors, just to get an appreciation of it. Because it sounded really unique, really cool. I made this one a while ago and I would love to hear some feedback. Well, there you have it. Kick waveforms for basslines are a funny tool. It sounds very cool. Next up, You and Me, Work in Progress version 20. Early version of this was on streams a couple of weeks back. Here it is essentially finished, just not mixed and mastered yet. Let's hear it. JRB with You and Me. Nice cover art as well, by the way, on this one. Cool dichotomy here between the two people. Sounding very cool so far. Maybe a few elements a little bit too loud. I would turn the bass down a little bit, just again so that you have more impact from the kick and bass once the kick and bass itself starts to play. Although this kick has a lot of impact. I would like to hear the bassline have a little bit more transient then as well, because now the transient of the bassline, you can even see it in the waveform, feels very small with respect to the very strong transient of the kick. Because the kick transient is very, very strong. Some very cool sound design here. I like the detail with it slowly panning left and right as well there. Sounding very good. At this point, I would say that low sequence, that dun 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 dun, that one over there should probably get taken away, so that we're not listening to that for like 3-4 sections in a row. Now it gets taken out. So in my opinion, that's one section too long that it's playing. Because you already have some other synths in that last section playing as well, so they can kind of fill up that gap. There's some strange clicks happening in that part.
You and me.
Ah, there's also rolling part in here. I think I heard that before. I thought that the bass line itself was messing up, but I think that what is happening here is that you're playing a short note, it stops then, and then there's another note playing here. It's always good to hear what other producers do, yes. And also what other producers think about somebody else's track, right? So for example here, I wouldn't personally have that sequence coming back in, that lower sequence that you hear, that rhythm thing. Dun 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 dun. That's the kind of sound that I would probably keep to this part over here, use as a strong element in that intro until it builds up to some other synth here, and then it just never happens again in the track.
And that fixing can only...
Because otherwise it repeats and repeats and then it becomes boring. You're like, hey, there's that same sound again.
It's a war when somebody else tries to fix you. So you must fix yourself. You must engineer yourself the way you think is the best way to be for a human being.
Nice space for the vocals.
Human being.
It is very, very dry, the vocal. There's no reverb on it. Now there's some reverb coming, I think.
It's only you and me.
Some cool stereo sound design happening here. I like that little mono part there as well. I think there were some drum changes in here in this part that sound a little bit off, like this hi-hat that is now playing just suddenly came in, and I felt like there was an open hi-hat playing earlier in this section that just stopped after 4 bars, or maybe 8. Very cool stuff. I do think the last rolling bassline drop doesn't add a lot. It takes a while to get into it, and then it plays for 16 bars, and then it stops and goes into the actual outro. To be honest, if you went into the outro right before this final rolling bassline, and you just plug this at the end of what you had before that, it would be okay. Because now it's just like, oh, it sounds like it's going to the outro, and then there's one more
Understand this.
small segment playing, and then it stops again. It's also going to be very hard to incorporate that into a DJ set, for example. The DJ would have to stop playing your track over here. They'll probably fade out with this part over here, maybe even from here on out. So they're not going to transition from here because there's a break right before it, right? I don't actually know this, by the way. I don't know DJing. As you probably know, if you follow the channel, I'm getting into DJing. But that's how I would imagine it would work. Okay, next up we have Raven Hightech, as you can see, with 11th of February 2003 BPM G-sharp first draft. Let's see. 14-minute track. Holy moly. Some very low frequency rumbles happening here. I don't know if that's intentional. Time to hit the couch, have fun, y'all. Thank you for watching. Thank you for staying around with the stream. There's a lot of low rumble here. You can see it even confusing my analyzer over here. That being said, there's not a lot of progression in this intro. It already started very bright, right, with this element. I would filter that in over time, for example. Now it just sounds very bland and very much stuck in the same part. There's not a lot of progression to it. Some very strange texturing happening here. Again, more rumble. In this case, it actually became an issue. It was masking the kick and bass coming in. I like this. Nice transition. Kick and bass definitely needs to be cleaned. You can also notice it in the transient. It's a little bit muffled, the transient of the bass line in particular. I think maybe your kick is too long here. This seems still like the sub bass of the kick here. It wouldn't have to cross the halfway point. And especially in Hightech, you can get away with a kick that is just a 16th note long. Not really a fan of this rising synth over here. Sound design is a little bit defaultish. I would like to hear maybe like a phaser and a flanger on top of it, something like that. Some glitchy sound design as well. The blue glitch can be put on top of there. And the other thing is, it's a little bit too loud in my opinion. I do like the infinite rising effect that it has going now. I haven't resampled the kick and bass yet. Yeah, I could tell. Because now this rising sound, because it continuously repeats, it gets just boring after a while. I know it's like a shepherd's tone thing, right? Because it's constantly rising. But it feels like it becomes boring, so some extra modulations on top would help that a lot. Because it's also the sound that draws the most attention with it being this loud. This is not me doing anything. I got really confused because I felt like it was out of the structure. Then again, this part of the track doesn't... It took a very long time to get here without any fill, so I was kind of lost in the structure as well. That's why we have structures and fills and stuff like that in our tracks to reset you when you're listening. I think I hear some sounds that are in a different rhythm or different BPM, maybe like they're not sounding in sync, some background sounds. This part is overall a little bit confusing. I would say that there's maybe a bit too much going on in here. This is again an issue of you have one very loud synth in here, a bit too loud synth, and you're leaving it in here for too long. At this point I would stop it playing and have, yeah, different glitch stuff playing, for example. But you still have the pitching sound playing, so it's still grabbing your attention. And you're just piling on top more and more sounds to keep it interesting. You should consider having one section per main sound. That's my kind of standard rule. Sometimes I go for two, but most of the time, for any main sound that I have in the track, it just plays for one section, usually 16 bars, right? 15 bars of kick and bass, and then the 16th bar as a fill. And then I switch up to a different sound. Hey man, I would love to have some of my tracks analyzed by you. Where can I submit my stuff? Well, normally I would say my Discord server, but unfortunately we already closed the queue over here. So you will have to wait until next week. We're just listening to the final few tracks here. After this one that we're listening to now, we have one more. There's some weird hollow sound in the bass line there. This is very mono. I would make that more stereo. Play around your head a little bit more. Not like auto panning or something like that, just the width of it. Again, something very wonky happening with the kick here and almost no punch. I guess that's like a transition thing there. Because now it's punchy again. It's also a little bit heavy on the bass, I think. Like the sub bass is a bit on the heavy side. Here the spectrum could be around this height and it would still be fine, I guess. There's hats missing. You're missing hats every once in a while. You're forgetting them. There, another one. There, another one. Maybe some duplicating issue, that you're just duplicating a clip without or with a missing hat or something like that. I like this MIDI thing that you're doing here, this melodic harp that is constantly changing. I did a video on that not too long ago. On something very similar, I think. This one is more repetitive though, so it is a little bit different in terms of the idea. Still a very cool idea. That being said, I do think that at some point now, like, it's getting a little bit boring again. I know this track is 14 minutes long, but I feel like you're just making it long for the sake of it, because there's not a lot of progression in this part, for example. It's just the same melody playing 4 times over. Right, and it's playing in the same way. There's not like a modulation that is constantly changing it, or different effects on top of it, or different sounds on top of it. Personally, I like a little bit of stereo width on the bass line as well. I don't know why I paused it for that. Here we go back into that continuously rising synth. I guess, yeah, you change the melody, but this is something that we already heard, this kind of sound. So that's a way that you could reintroduce an element. But personally, I wouldn't even do that. I'm not even a fan of doing that. There's a cool effect there. But to be honest, for the rest of the track, it feels like you're stretching it out much more in length than it needs to be. Do you know what I mean? I feel like we've already heard this a lot before. I do like that effect, as I said before. I think it's a little bit too loud in this current mix. Strange dichotomy here to change between the hat on top. Overall though, I really like the track. I think it's just a little bit boring. I don't see a reason why this needs to be 14 minutes long with the sounds that you currently have. I feel like you're dragging it out a lot. But overall the sound design is very, very good. And I can see that if you're working in a little bit more sounds, then it can definitely work as a track. Where's my Discord? Here's my Discord. Okay, so the last track for today is Beautiful Discoveries by Acid Monkey. This will have a YouTube video.
A young man on acid realized that all matter is merely energy condensed.
I believe we already listened to this before. Maybe.
That we are all
I feel like I've heard this before.
experiencing itself subjectively. Life is only a dream.
Maybe not. Nice clean kick and bass. You love to see it. I felt like I remembered the intro, but now I don't remember this track. It was uploaded a month ago, so it could be. Yes, but it was not complete. I changed it up a bit and finished. Aha, okay. High frequencies lack a little bit here, I would say. Normally you want a little bit of a bump on top. It's just a little bit dull now. I've heard this vocal in the Sidewind track 12 years ago. Yeah, I mean, people sample the same thing. That happens. As long as the vocal describes the story that you're trying to tell with the track and it fits in there and it's mixed properly, then just leave it in there. I wouldn't care about what somebody else has made in terms of art. I wouldn't change that. I wouldn't have that influence which vocals I will and will not add to my track. Nice unified sound design here. I like this a lot. I like it. I'm trying to focus on the rhythm that you've going on with the kick and the bass. Because there's something really unique going on with the ka-dung, ka-dung. Now there's maybe a little bit too much stuff happening for you guys to hear it. The only thing that I'm starting to notice is I believe you're continuously using the same bass melody. It starts to feel like it's getting a little bit boring in the lower frequencies. But now, yeah, now we're going back into a normal part, so I guess that can work as well. I don't know if for every melody part, but at least for this part here, the melody was always the same, I think. If you're doing that for every melodic or every part where you are using a bass melody, my tip would be is to have a melody for each section that is like standing on its own and is using a bass melody, so that there's again differences between the different segments that makes your track a little bit more interesting. It's kind of funny, Psytrance almost requires these differences between the segments because it's such a long track usually, right? It's 7-8 minutes long. We really want to prevent that boringness from happening.
LSD story, that would be newsworthy, don't you think?
I've definitely heard this before because I do believe I may have had a content ID claim for this one as well. What is the chance I go look in my Discord and there's a DM that I have with you regarding copyright? If I remember correctly. Maybe not. No. Maybe it's somebody else. I thought that was this track, but I hear so many tracks, to be honest, that I get them confused sometimes. Maybe it was a different track with the same vocal or something. I like that it's repeating. The cool sound design thing that you have in here, that is that thing. It sounds a little bit different each time, but it repeats every 4 bars. Sounds very cool. Overall, great track. Very nice. I think today's tracks were particularly well done in terms of just the quality overall of the productions, especially the last 4. I think, I guess this one was a little bit less because it was stretched out, but even here, like the sound design was very good and stuff like that. But I've said this before, a lot of tracks are very good that are sent to my stream. There's a lot of tracks that I'll continuously try to talk because I'm always trying to bring up points, right? Because that's at the end of the day why I'm here. That's the job that I have when I'm giving feedback. But there were a few tracks that it was generally hard at some points to actually continue talking, to say as much as I wanted to say just to keep the stream interesting. So that's a good sign, right? If there's nothing to mention, then it's a good sign. That means that I'm just enjoying the music. Anyway, that means that we're at the end of the tracks for today. I hope you guys appreciate or enjoyed the stream. I hope that you guys enjoyed the feedback, that it's useful. Appreciate feedback as always. Thank you very much. I'm glad, actually. But that's going to be the end for today. I hope you enjoyed. As I said, I'm trying to see if I can do a mixing stream this week, so that we can mix that one project that I showed before during the break. Other than that, I'll be taking out a day to work on the first live set that I'm trying to perform, so that I'm going to be able to play that in actually on a DJ console, and then hopefully maybe early next week that live set will be all edited and finished, and we'll have some visuals for it, and we'll actually post it up on Eclipse as well. So yeah, that's going to be it for today.